There it goes, ladies and gentlemen. That sound means that we are starting another episode of the Industry Athletic Show. We've got a special guest with us today. Her name is Candace Rubenstein, or Ruben's daughter. She's been a member of the gym for how many years now?
4.
4 years?
Yeah.
I've been excited to do this podcast since we started podcasting. Without getting too sappy, you're a huge inspiration to myself, and I think a lot of other people in the gym. So I just want to get to know Candace a little bit better. Thanks for being on the show.
Anytime at all.
All right, so I want to start. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your athletic background? Any sports you played, anything like that?
So, a very long time ago, I was a competitive gymnast.
And by very long time, you mean like 2 or 3 years? Because aren't you like 22 or something like that?
I wish. That would be way better if I was 22. No, I'm 30.
It's the best decade.
That's what I've been told. Looking forward to it, actually. No, so a very long time ago, I was a gymnast, competitive, relatively high level, especially for my age. For those of you that know what the levels of gymnastics are, I competed level 9, trained 10, and I was like 12 years old. So for that age, I was pretty good.
What would be like an Olympic gymnast?
Like
72?
No, like it goes 9, 10, elite.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And elite is the Olympic level.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was kind of up there, but retired that pretty early on. And then got conned into doing competitive cheerleading because I had the gymnastics background.
Do you want to give a shout out to the Wolfpack shirt that you're wearing right now?
Yeah, Wolfpack. NC State, Raleigh, North Carolina. Cheerleading. Is it a wildcat?
Right. It's a wolf.
Go Wolfpack. Yeah, so I did competitive cheerleading through high school and All-Star, which is like not the high school team, but competitive outside of your school. And then I cheered in college competitively as well at NC State.
Was there any kind of weightlifting component in cheerleading? I feel like it probably would help, especially for like the lifts and tosses and even like the plyometric exercises. But I feel like it's also counterintuitive to staying small.
Yeah, so ironically, I was the largest female on my college cheerleading team. If you've seen me, you know that's probably kind of a surprise, being 5'2" and like 135-ish. But yeah, as far as weightlifting goes with barbells, no, I had never touched a barbell until I got to CrossFit. It was like totally a new experience for me. But I attribute my strength overhead to cheerleading because this team actually, I was a base on, meaning I was on the bottom and held girls over my head. So that strength of holding a human body over your head, I think that definitely helped transfer into overhead movements in CrossFit.
Nice. So tell me, so you cheered at college. How did you get into CrossFit?
So in Raleigh, North Carolina, there are a lot of CrossFit gyms. I finished college cheerleading, graduated college, and have always been in some sort of organized sport. And I didn't have an organized sport, so I started running on my own, which was terrible. Don't like running. Not only was it terrible, but it was boring too. So then we got into the whole Insanity P90X thing.
Ooh, I remember doing Insanity.
Yeah.
Like 3 dudes
yeah.
in a room. Although Shanti, right?
Yeah, Shanti. Yeah.
And I don't want to like throw Shanti under the bus, but I just like can't handle that.
No, it was a lot of energy. But yeah, my roommates and I would do Insanity. We lived on like the 3rd floor of our apartment complex, so our neighbors underneath us were always really angry. So
I think that we should bring back Insanity.
all I remember is that it blew up my calves. I remember I couldn't walk for like
jumping around for
it's
ridiculous.
Yeah, so got into that and then kind of got over that. And then I don't even know how I found CrossFit. Somebody told me about it. Somebody just word of mouth told me about it. And I really found it interesting, but at the time was super poor, just graduated college student. So I didn't have any money. And so I actually was coaching gymnastics at a local gym at the time. So I started doing CrossFit workouts that I would find online from our local gyms. I would do it after I coached practice at night because they have bars and stuff. So they didn't have weightlifting bars, but I could do the gymnastics type stuff. And then eventually I found a Groupon and I joined CrossFit Invoke in Raleigh, North Carolina, and started on a Groupon, so I was a Grouponer.
Groupon. They all start somewhere.
Yeah, that's how I was able to afford it for a while. Yeah.
Very cool. How long was it until you realized, like, oh, I'm kind of okay at this?
Well, I think like people got excited over me just because of the gymnastics aspect of it, and myself being able to pick up the higher level gymnastic skills pretty easily. So like their excitement got me excited, but then also just like the ever-changing and evolvingness of CrossFit. You never really get bored. There's always something new to work on, and which can be overwhelming, but it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
So it kept me into it.
Very cool. So you've been doing it for 5-6 years now.
Yeah, 6 months.
I know just based on knowing you that recently you made a pretty significant life decision to really pursue CrossFit. Tell me a little bit about what went into that decision and how you arrived at it, and just what the journey has kind of been like to go from a recreational CrossFitter to now relatively serious.
Yeah, so Matt Davidow, if you don't know him,
Shout out, Matt.
probably do, even if you realize you don't.
He's the mayor of Federal Hill.
Yeah.
There's no way you don't know him.
Yeah, everyone knows him. The man bun, that's all you really need to know. Him and I always kind of had the conversation of how like the lifestyle of full-time training would be. And I always jokingly said, in an ideal world, I would work at my full-time job, well at the time, which was working for Under Armour headquarters. The ideal situation would be working for them part-time and training full-time. Like totally kidding, like saying that it wasn't a real possibility, in an ideal world. But we went to the games this past year, and afterwards we sat down to dinner and we kind of started talking about it more in depth and trying to consider it as a real possibility. It's just, if you've never been to the games, it's just so inspirational. I mean, the level of athleticism is just incomprehensible, really. I mean, it's just so impressive. So we started talking about it in a more realistic way. And literally like 2 weeks later, we came home and I talked to Under Armour about it, and my boss was really amazing, and he was like, we'll keep you, even if we can keep you just a small amount of time, then that's what we'll do. I want to keep you around as much as we can. And so now I work part-time at Under Armour, which is like very part-time, like 16 hours a week part-time, and I train the rest of the time. Yeah.
Very cool. Taking a leap. It's been about a year. That's 8 months now?
Yeah.
How's your body been handling the increased volume and mental state? And
At first, it was not too crazy about it. I've had, like, more recently, the past year, some knee issues. Way back when I had some lower back issues, but since then it's been pretty clear.
Yes.
Got that under control. So it's lately just been kind of the knees. But at first, body wasn't too crazy about the increase in volume. I probably was a little too aggressive with it because I was really excited to get into the full-time training. Probably could ease into that a little bit better. But after about 6 months, I would say, probably solid 6 months, everything started to even out. So
nice.
yeah, so everything's feeling pretty good, and I am able to get in the volume that I feel like I should be without too much, like, spending too much time on maintenance.
Nice. I know that right after you made the decision to go full-time, there was a pretty bombshell announcement that the games were not going to be what they used to be. Regionals were kind of destroyed. They were destroyed.
Yeah.
Now we have what we call sanctional events, which are acting as a regional event. 16 around the world, one of which happens to be called Strength in Depth, which is in London, England. Correct? London?
Yep, London.
All right. So London, England had a competition pretty recently called Strength in Depth, and you qualified for that in the elite division. So about 5 months into being a full-time athlete, qualifying for an elite competition. I want to talk a little bit about what that means for somebody who might not appreciate or understand the accomplishment that is. Candace here was competing against Sarah Sigmund's daughter and Jamie Green and Danny Spiegel, all of which are high level, like games level CrossFit athletes. And then, so it was like Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Danny Spiegel, Jamie Green, Candace Rubenstein. Yeah, not kind of, that's exactly what it was.
There's a lot of people in between there.
No. So this is the step before the games. The winner of the competition ended up being Sarah Sigmund's daughter. Got a ticket to the games. So you were literally competing for a spot to compete in Madison. So that's the level of competition that we're talking about. Something that no one in this gym has been or done. So I just want to talk a little bit now about your experience with it and what, tell me about the qualifications and mindset and anything you changed for training or anything like that.
Yeah, so going into like this new lifestyle, backing up a little bit, when I made this decision, the goal that I set for myself was making it to regionals. Literally the week after I sorted everything out with work, the CrossFit HQ made the announcement that there would be no more regionals. And they eventually announced these sectional events. But yeah, so the focus and the goals had to pivot and shift. So they started announcing these sanctioned events. London Strength and Depth was one of them. And I grew up in London, in England for about 5 years. My family was out there.
How come you don't have a merry old accent?
You sound like you're from London. Because I was there for like 5 years, and we went to it's called an American Community School. So although I was around British people all the time, I actually wasn't around British people all the time. School was still in good old American.
Good old American.
So yeah, that's why I don't have an accent. Also,
they teach you to talk good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, when they announced that competition, I was like, oh, that's great. I can, if I qualify, I can make a trip out of it, see some more friends, and go around the old stomping grounds and stuff like that. So that became a goal. They did an online qualification process, which is very common for these sanctioned events. Very similar to the setup of the Open. They announced several workouts. You do them, you tape them, you submit your scores online, and then it ranks you, and they take the top however many to the event. So they were taking 30 to Strength and Depth, and I qualified in 20th, but then they did a 10-person invite, so that was to the people like Danny Spiegel and Sarah. So I technically qualified in 30th. So
you technically qualified in 20, but then they invited a few other people.
Yeah. But so my goal going into, first of all, super excited to have qualified. Like Davidson said, it's an elite competition. It was elite division, so this is my first experience of that elite level, and only 6 months into it. Very exciting. I was mentally fully preparing myself to be presented with something that I just physically couldn't do. The main example that I brought up when I talked about it was a super heavy deadlift or something. Deadlifting is not my strength, so I was fully trying to mentally prepare myself to walk up to a bar that I just couldn't lift. Luckily, there wasn't really anything like that. I was able to complete everything. So as far as an elite level competition, I was really happy with that aspect of it. But my goal going into it was, since I technically qualified in 30th, my goal was to finish 29th or better in the competition. So it was 2 days, 7 events. Yeah. Do you want details on
I do,
day-to-day?
yeah. So take us a little bit behind the scenes, because
Okay.
it's pretty exciting to be, we all kind of get to see what happens on the front side of the competition, but tell us a little bit about the back side of it, registration, the athlete village, and then I know just based on knowing what happened in the competition,